This is so good. I'm actually using my standing desk today. I am drinking greens right now. I'm hoping none of it's getting stuck in my teeth. I like to drink it while it's cold. PSA to drink your greens. Alright guys, this is my third year doing this video. It's all the books that I read in 2023. So if you enjoy this, you can definitely go check out the last 2 years / videos that I have up on my channel. Let's go ahead and dive in. I will say my goal every year is to read 20 books, and I have a confession to make. Last year, I thought I hit 20 books, but I had started reading one book and I got about 60 pages in by the end of the year. And then, unfortunately, my busy season for work is usually the first 6 weeks of the year, so January through mid-February. So that really pushed off my reading, and I actually didn't finish the book until March of 2022. So that shows how much of a break I took from reading. This year has been kind of a whirlwind because I've actually been pulled into 3 different busy seasons. So I had my normal one from January to mid-February, then I had another one that was late March to early May. And then I actually just started another one 2 months ago. So that one I've been in for 8 weeks, and I still have another 6 weeks to go of that busy season. So needless to say, I'm very busy, and unfortunately it kind of shows in what I've read that I wasn't able to hit my goal this year either. I will do a double count, but I think I'm at 17 books. I give this disclaimer in every video, but I don't know what happens to my brain when I have to read out loud, but I turn into like an elementary school kid who's nervous to read aloud, and I slip up a lot. Going to read y'all the summaries of these books just to kind of show what the book is about. And I feel like the summary is the perfect amount because it's what the author hopes people read and draws them into the book to buy it. So I feel like it's a safe amount of information to share without spoilers and whatnot. First, I want to start though with the books that I reread in 2023. So I had read these previously, one being The Love Hypothesis. It says that I first read this April of 22. And then I read it again this year because Ali Hazelwood books, she's such a good author. I love the way she writes romance books. This one I have talked about on this channel before, but just for a reminder, as a third-year PhD candidate, Olive Smith doesn't believe in lasting romantic relationships, but her best friend does, and that's what got her into this situation. Convincing Anon that Olive is dating and well on her way to a happily ever after was always going to take more than hand-wavy Jedi mind tricks. Scientists require proof, so like all self-respecting biologists, Olive panics and kisses the first man she sees. That man is none other than Adam Carlson, a young hotshot professor and well-known ass. Which is why Olive is positively floored when Stanford's reigning lab tyrant agrees to help her charade a secret and be her fake boyfriend. And when a big science conference goes haywire, putting Olive's career on the Bunsen burner, Adam surprises her again with his unyielding support and even more unyielding six-pack abs. Suddenly, their little experiment feels dangerously close to combustion, and Olive discovers the only thing more complicated than a hypothesis on love is putting her own heart under the microscope. Obviously, it sounds pretty cheesy, but the book is pretty entertaining. It also has some other storylines going on that are entertaining as well. Learn a lot about the whole PhD realm of a student. I think the author has background in like STEM because a lot of her books are centered around science and engineering and that kind of stuff. So yeah, this was a good book. And I decided to reread it because I'll get to them later, but I read some of her other books this year and just remind me how good of a writer she is, so I went back to this one. This is my third time reading this book, which shows how good the book is. And it's The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. I got this was the book that made me start Book of the Month. Again, not sponsored, but if you haven't heard about Book of the Month, I think they upped their prices, so maybe it's like $17 a month now. I think your first month is only $10. They have 5 to 6 book options, and they have a whole committee that like goes through a screening process. So most of the books that are there are pretty high quality books, and you can pick one every month. And this is the book that got me to officially sign up, and then I've been hooked on Book of the Month ever since. This I read in 2021, then the sequel to it called The Kiss Curse came out in 22, so I reread this, read this one, and then this year I was so excited because in October a third book was coming out, so I went ahead and reread both of these in preparation for the third book. but I misread it and the book is coming out, I think, October of 2024, not 2023. Regardless, these are both still really good reads. It's like the hallmark of Halloween books. That's what I need. I want like super kitschy, cheesy, magic witches. I need it to be like a beautiful, you know, New England vibe town. Like, I need all of that. I need that more than I need like a cheesy Hallmark Christmas book. Like, this is my all-time favorite read of the year. Every year. But preference, it's cheesy. So it says, never mix vodka and witchcraft. 9 years ago, Vivian Jones nursed her broken heart like any young witch would. Vodka, weepy music, bubble baths, and a curse on her horrible boyfriend. Sure, Vivi knows she shouldn't use her magic that way, but with only an orchard hayride scented candle on hand, she isn't worried it will cause him anything more than a bad hair day or two. That is until Reese Penhallow, descendant of the town's ancestors, breaker of hearts and annoyingly just as gorgeous as he always was, returns to Graves Glen, Georgia, which should be a quick trip to recharge the town's ley lines and make an appearance at the annual fall fair, turns disastrously wrong, with one calamity after another striking Reese. Vivi realizes her silly little ex-hex may not have been so harmless after all. Suddenly, Graves Glen is under attack from murderous wind-up toys, a pissed-off ghost, and a talking cat, and with some interesting things to say. Vivi and Reese have to ignore their off-the-charts chemistry to work together to save the town and find a way to break the breakup curse before it's too late. It's very good. Love, love, love it. Then by the same author is The Kiss Curse. This came out October of 22. I've mentioned this in last year's video, but Vivian Jones is the main character of this, but one of the supporting characters, her name is, I think her full name is, I want to say Guinevere. Yeah, Guinevere, and that's her cousin. And this book, the second book, is based off of the main character being her cousin. And of course she goes by Gwyn for short. She spells it the same way as me, Gwyn. She's also a Taurus. And they also mention her driving an old Volvo, which was my very first car. So it's all very, you know, full circle. So it's just kind of cool to, like, I never see my name in books, so that was cool. Because Gwyn Jones is perfectly happy with her life in Graves Glen. She, her mom, and her cousin have formed a new and powerful coven. She's running a successful witchcraft shop, Something Wicked, and she started mentoring some of the younger witches in town. As Halloween approaches, there's only one problem. Llewellyn Wells Penhallow. Wells has come to Grave Glen to establish his family's connection to the town they founded and to make a new life for himself. After years of being the dutiful son in Wales, he opens up a shop of his own, Penhallow's, just across the street from Something Wicked. He quickly learns he's gotten more than he's bargained for in going up against Gwyn. When their professional competition leads to a very personal and very hot kiss, both Wells and Gwyn are determined to stay away from each other, convinced the kiss was just a magical fluke. But when a mysterious new coven of witches comes to town and Gwyn's powers begin fading, she and Wells must work together to figure out just what these new witches want and how to restore Gwyn's magic before it's too late. Those are the books that I reread in 2023. This was the book that I mentioned last year. I was reading in December of 22 and I got about 100 pages in, had to put it down because work was crazy, and then finally picked it back up, and it's Killers of a Certain Age. I write the month and year that I finish a book, so here I wrote March of 2023. I also have a little stamp that I put on this that says, from the library of Gwyneth Thomas. I actually got it on Etsy. I'll link it below if you guys are curious. I should also start linking these books below too. If that interests you guys, I can do that in case you'd rather just pick them up from Amazon or something. Billy, Mary Alice, Helen, and Natalie have worked for the museum, an elite network for assassins, for 40 years. Now their talents are considered old school and no one appreciates what they have to offer in an age that relies more on technology than people skills. When the foursome is sent on an all-expense-paid vacation to mark their retirement, they are targeted by one of their own. Only the board, the top-level member of the museum, can order the termination of field agents, and the women realize they have been marked for death. Now, to get out alive, they have to turn against their own organization, relying on experience and one another to get the job done. Knowing that working together is the secret to their survival, they're about to teach the board what it really means to be a woman and a killer of a certain age. So, this was a very, very good read. I do recommend this. I will say it does have maybe a few too many jokes that are a little on the nose of menopause and oh, that hurt my hip, or oh, my ankle's popping, or whatever. Like that kind of stuff's a little too on the nose, but the actual storyline is so interesting. Lots of twists and turns. I will say they kind of move around internationally, which is cool too. The references they make to just different, you know, tourist attractions and all that. So I do recommend this one. This one actually did take a big chunk of my time to read. I know it's like not a difficult reading level. It is 870 pages, and I am learning that it takes me longer to read books that I know what's going to happen. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, this is the 5th book. I think this is the largest book. It felt like a long read. I do know that the storyline's a little different in the book than it is in the movies, but I'm finding that when I know what that end result is, I'm just like go longer without picking up the book. Like I'll maybe read a chapter or two and then I won't pick it up for like another 3 or 4 days and read another chapter. So yeah, I am very much enjoying the series, but I just feel like I don't fly through these books as I do these other ones. For those who don't know, this is my first time reading the Harry Potter series. I actually didn't even watch all the movies until college when I was first dating Taylor and told him that I hadn't seen all the Harry Potter movies. So he was like, what? And yeah, so that's kind of where all that took off. These books are not in order of how I read them. We're just going through the stack. I did read People We Meet on Vacation. This book I actually loaned to Taylor's mom to read, and I just keep forgetting to get it back from her. But I read this over the summer. This is a super popular book. I've seen this everywhere on social media before I picked it. I think I picked this as my add-on birthday book. On Book of the month that's your birthday, you get to select an extra book for free. So I think I picked this one. 2 best friends, 10 summer trips, 1 last chance to fall in love. Poppy and Alex and Poppy, they have nothing in common. She's a wild child. He wears khakis. She has insatiable wanderlust. He prefers to stay home with a book, and somehow, ever since a fateful car share home from college many years ago, they are the very best of friends. For most of the year, they live far apart. She's in New York City and he's in their small hometown. But every summer for a decade, they have taken one glorious week of vacation together until 2 years ago when they ruined everything and they haven't spoken since. Poppy has everything she should want, but she's stuck in a rut. When someone asks when she was truly last happy, she knows without a doubt that it was on that ill-fated trip with Alex. So she decides to convince her best friend to take one more vacation together, lay everything on the table and make it all right. Miraculously, he agrees. Now she has a week to fix everything. If only she can get around to one big truth that has always stood quietly in the middle of their seemingly perfect friendship, what could possibly go wrong? The way they unfold the story, it does time hop, so I know some people don't love that. I don't mind it, as long as it doesn't do it too much. Like I need to be at least a few chapters in the present and then jumping around, but it'll have present day and then jump back to the first summer they went on vacation, and then just slowly builds and like closes that time gap so you can understand what this huge buildup is. And yeah, I think the author did a really good job. I actually read this when I was on vacation, so that was kind of fun too. For those who like mystery books, this is very good. This is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. I actually think this was my selected birthday book May of 22, and I just didn't get around to reading it till now. But it says, Jess needs a fresh start. She's broken alone, and she just left her job under less than ideal circumstances. Her half-brother, Ben, didn't sound thrilled when she asked if she could crash with him for a bit, but he didn't say no, and surely everything will look better from Paris. Only when she shows up to find a very nice apartment, could Ben really have afforded this? He's not here. The longer Ben stays missing, the more Jess starts to dig into her brother's situation and the more questions she has. Ben's neighbors are an eclectic bunch and not particularly friendly. Jess may have come to Paris to escape her past, but it's starting to look like it's Ben's future that's in doubt. Everyone's a neighbor, everyone's a suspect, and everyone knows something they're not telling. This book is so good. If you like the eerie vibes, you will love this. It's usually I don't like to be in like a uncomfortable mindset. Like I like the easier light reads, love romance books. This was good. Every once in a while I like to throw in just a thriller, mystery, twist novel, and this was good. Actually picked up another book by this author. It's on my like to read shelf. I think it's called The Guest List. This book is Lunar Love. It says I read this February of 2023. Looks pretty different. It is Olivia Hung Christensen. is excited / terrified to be taking over her grandmother's matchmaking business. But when she learns that a new dating app has made her Popo's traditional Chinese zodiac approach all about the animal attraction, her emotions skew more towards fear / outrage, especially when LA's most eligible bachelor, Bennett O'Brien, is behind the app that could destroy her family's legacy. Liv knows better than to fall for any guy, let alone an infuriatingly handsome one who believes that traditions are meant to be broken. As the two businesses go head-to-head, Bennett and Liv make a deal. They'll find a match for each other, and whoever falls in love loses. But Liv is dealing with someone who's already adept at stealing business ideas, so what's stopping him from stealing her heart too? Yeah, this is pretty good. I mean, you can kind of just tell from the summary how this book goes, but it is pretty interesting. They talk a lot about the culture and the rules behind the zodiac signs and matchmaking, so that part's pretty cool. Like, they do a decent job at educating you about it. I think at the end of the book there's... Oh yeah, the end of the book is pretty cool because it has like a few pages of like add-in stuff, and it'll tell you what the zodiac signs are for each character that's introduced to the book too, so you can kind of understand a little bit more, at least their zodiac sign. It gives some recipes. Back to a very eerie book. This was pretty cool though. This is the London Seance Society. I've learned that I do enjoy historical fiction. Similar with the mystery books, I kind of sprinkle them in, mainly because if they have like eerie twists to them, I like can't read it at night. My dreams are easily affected by energy of the books that I'm reading, so I try not to read anything too scary or I'll have like scary dreams. This is very cool. This is also the same author who wrote The Lost Apothecary. I love that book. From the author of the sensational bestseller The Lost Apothecary. Amid the shrouder parlors of Victorian London, two darling women hunt for truth and justice in the perilous art of conjuring the dead. 1873, at an abandoned chateau on the outskirts of Paris, a dark seance is about to take place, led by acclaimed spiritualist Vaudeline de Leer, known worldwide for her talent in conjuring the spirits of the murder victims to ascertain the identities of the people who killed them. She is highly sought after by widows and investigators alike. Leanna Wicks has come to Paris to find answers about her sister's death, but to do so, she must embrace the unknown and overcome her own logic-driven bias against the occult. When Vaudeline is beckoned to England to solve a high-profile murder, Leanne accompanies her as an understudy. But as the women team up with the powerful men of London's exclusive Seance Society to solve the mystery, they begin to suspect that they are not merely out to solve a crime, but perhaps entangled in one themselves. Written with alluring suspense and sultry prose, the London Seance Society is an entrancing tale that explores the blurred lines between truth and illusion and reveals the grave risk women will take to avenge the ones they love. Whew, that was a long one. But yes, so good. So many twists and turns and suspenseful moments, and it's just all good. So many twists and turns. So, highly recommend this. I'm not going to say that for all of these. I do think most of these books I would highly recommend. This one I also highly recommend. This is probably one of the better romance books I've read in that it's the most realistic. So the other ones are pretty like, will they, won't they, enemies to lovers, things like that. Like, it's more on the nose, it's more predictable. The one about, you know, her and the guy setting each other up and whoever falls in love loses, stuff like that. Like, you know where that's gonna go. This is so, so good. There's a little bit of mystery to some of it. There's some sadness going on. There's people who have like real everyday struggles, whether it just be like social anxiety or other stresses or just hardships in their lives. But then it's also just, it has that, but it doesn't have too much of it to where the book's like a really, really sad, heavy read. But it makes it everything more realistic and then balances it with just sweet romance. And it's nothing that's too crazy or like aggressive. It's like small, simple things that you see and like the characters notice, and just like simple acts. I mean, my love language is acts of service, so I think that's maybe why I love this so much, is I see like small acts of service between the characters, and that's what makes me root for them and like more invested in their relationship than these big, grand, borderline cheesy romantic gestures that you see in other books. So yeah, I really like this one. So I guess this author also wrote a book called Part of Your World, which has done pretty well. So I guess I'll have to check that out. Dr. Brianna Ortiz life is seriously flatlining. Her divorce is just about to be finalized. Her brother's running out of time to find a kidney donor. And that promotion she wants, that's probably going to go to the new man doctor who's already registered 80 freaking 7 on Brianna's pain in the ass scale. But just when all systems are set to hate, Dr. Jacob Maddox completely flips the game by sending Brianna a letter. And it's a really good letter, like the kind that proves that Jacob isn't actually Satan. Whereas he might be this fantastically, oh my gosh, I can't read today, guys. He might be this fantastically funny and subversively likable guy who's terrible at first impressions, because suddenly he and Brianna are exchanging letters, sharing lunch dates in her sob closet, and discussing the merits of freakishly tiny horses. But when Jacob decides to give Brianna the best gift imaginable, a kidney for her brother, she wonders just how she can resist this quietly sexy new doctor, especially when he calls in a favor she can't refuse. I mean, obviously donating a kidney isn't like a normal everyday today thing that happens, but I don't know. You gotta read it to know what I'm talking about. Okay, so the next book I want to talk about is Love on the Brain, and this is by Ali Hazelwood, and that is who wrote The Love Hypothesis. It came out in 2022. B's theory was right. Forcing a scientist to work with her nemesis triggers explosive results. Like any avenging purple-haired Jedi bringing balance to the mansplaining universe. B lives by a simple code. What would Marie Curie do? If NASA offered Marie her dream neuroengineering project, she would accept without hesitation. Duh. But the mother of modern physics never had to co-lead with Levi Ward. Sure, Levi has soul-piercing eyes, and sure, he caught her in his powerfully corded arms like a romance novel hero when she accidentally damseled in distress on her first day in the lab. But Levi made his feelings towards B clear in grad school. Arch nemesis work best when employed in their own galaxies far, far away. Now her equipment is missing, the staff ignores her, and B finds her floundering career in somewhat of a pickle. Perhaps it's her occipital cortex playing tricks on her, but B could swear she can see Levi softening into an ally, backing her plays, devouring her with those eyes. And the possibilities have all her neurons firing. But when it comes time to actually make a move and put her heart on the line, there's only one question that matters. What will B do? It's a little bit cheesy here and there, but I just love the way she writes. I was then like, what else has this lady written? I need to read more by this author. And I was able to pick up this book on Amazon, which is actually 3 stories in one book, and each story is roughly 100 pages, but it's 3 girls that are friends. They're also in the STEM world. They're friends from college and their PhD programs. And it's each story about kind of how they found their person. The book is called Loath to Love You, or I guess the collection is called Loath to Love You. Under One Roof, Stuck with You, Below Zero. Under One Roof, an environmental engineer discovers that scientists should never cohabitate when she finds herself stuck with a roommate from hell, a detestable big oil lawyer who won't leave the thermostat alone. Stuck with You, a civil engineer and her nemesis take their rivalry and love to the next level when they get stuck in a New York elevator. 3, Below Zero, NASA neurospace engineer frozen heart melts as she lies injured and stranded at a remote Arctic research station, and the only person willing to undertake the dangerous rescue mission is her longtime rival. So you kind of know where these are going to go, but they're still really good reads, and the way she writes the stories is very good. I actually pre-ordered a book that came out this year, and I forgot that I pre-ordered it because it still had months till it released, but it showed up at my doorstep, and luckily I knew to put my new address and not my old one. But what is the book called? I'll put it up on the screen, but that came out. It was delivered to my house a few months ago. I haven't had a chance to read it, but even rereading these summaries makes me want to go read that book. This book I read on vacation, which was super fun. I actually was saving it for a beach vacation, and I went down to South Texas, went to the beach, and was able to read this on the beach, which was pretty cool. This is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. She's the same one who wrote The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This is a good one. I actually bought this last year, but when I got around to finally to read it, it was fall time and summer was winding down, and so I really wanted to wait to read it when I was in the summer vibes. So that's why I waited until I think July. Yep, I read this July of 23. It's kind of historical fiction, and that she picks well-known historical figures, but she changes the name in the book and like writes about them. So people speculate, it's not confirmed, but people speculate that the 7 husbands of Evelyn Hugo is basically the made-up name for Elizabeth Taylor. Now there's definitely some like fluffing to these stories and added storylines and things that might not be true for Elizabeth Taylor, but it is interesting, you know, how this book goes. So this one is actually based off of, I have to see how they changed the names, but it's from the perspective of all of Mick Jagger's kids, which is pretty cool. August 1983, it's the date of Nina Riva's annual end of summer party, and anticipation is at a fever pitch. Everyone wants to be around the famous Rivas. Nina, the talented surfer and supermodel, brothers Jay and Hud, one a championship surfer, the other a renowned photographer, and their adored baby sister Kit. Together the siblings are a source of fascination, especially as the offspring of legendary singer Mick Riva. By midnight the party will be completely out of control. By morning the Riva mansion will have gone up in flames, but before the first sparks in the early hours before dawn, the alcohol will flow, the music will play, and the loves and secrets that shape the family's generations will all come rising to the surface. Malibu Rising is a story about one unforgettable night in the life of family. The night they each have to choose what they will keep from the people who made them and what they will leave behind. The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, that book is written for just through her whole life. And then this is like complete opposite, because this whole book is within like 24 hours, maybe even less. But it's very entertaining. It starts at like 5 a.m. that day, and not every chapter, but essentially every chapter is like, that one chapter gives you an update of what all the kids were doing at that hour, and then the next hour is like, okay, now it's 6 a.m. Now let's check in on each person. 7 a.m. check in on each person. It also does time hop. The time hop helps bring context and understand what's all going on during this day. It talks about more about the dad, about the mom. Okay, 3 books we have, because I know I'm 24, guys, but I fell into the summer I turned pretty rabbit hole. I fell into the trap. I watched all the episodes. I know this became a thing in 2022 was the first season. I actually had bought The Summer I Turned Pretty in 2022, and at first it's just because this looked beautiful. The cover and everything looked really pretty, and I was at Target and it just caught my eye. And then I googled it and saw that they were making a Netflix show, well, Amazon Prime show off of it, and that everyone was raving about it. And similar to Malibu Rising, I actually had picked this up towards the end of summer, so I waited until summer of 23 to read it. So at that point, I didn't know that this whole second season was coming out. I hadn't even seen any of the show. So I had this in my possession for a good like 7-8 months, not knowing anything about what was going on or what this book was about. Then I read it. So good. Then I went and ordered on Amazon the next 2 books, and while I waited for those, I binge watched the first season, which I will say, guys, the books are different storylines than the TV show. That's all I'm going to say on that. And I think like the first 3 episodes were out of season 2, and then, guys, I was on the watch train. Like the second a new episode dropped, I was sitting down with my popcorn and watching it, and Taylor could not talk to me while I watched the episode, and then I immediately went to TikTok to see what people were saying. Like, I was invested. So the first one is The Summer I Turned Pretty. I think the second is It's Not Summer Without You. Yeah, It's Not Summer Without You. And then the third one is We'll Always Have Summer. So good. If you don't know about this series, I'll just read the first one, just because I'm sure the summaries of these kind of might spoil some things. But the first one just says, when each summer begins, Belly, guys, I don't like that her name is Belly, but her full name is Isabel, and then I guess shortened to Belle, and then people call her Belly. When each summer begins, Belly leaves her school life behind and escapes to Cousins Beach, the place she has spent every summer of her life. Not only does the beach house mean home away from home, but her favorite people are there: Susanna, her mother's best friend, and her sons Conrad and Jeremiah. Belly has been chasing Conrad for as long as she can remember, and more than anything, she hopes this summer will be different. Despite distractions from a new guy named Cam, and lingering looks from Conrad's brother, Jeremiah, Belly's heart belongs to Conrad. Will he offer his to her? Will this be the summer that changes everything? Also, there's way more that goes on in this book than just that summary. I'm not giving anything away if you haven't seen that. And then the final book I have to talk about for 2023 is the book I'm currently reading. It is December 29th. I have only about 100 pages left to read, so I'm confident in the next 3 days I can knock those out. But the book I'm reading is actually my December of 23 book of the month, and it's A Winter in New York. I love to read just a good cheesy romance book for winter. This says a young chef stumbles upon a secret family recipe that might lead her to love and life she's been looking for. When Iris decides to move to New York City to restart her life, she realizes she underestimated how big the Big Apple really is. All the nostalgic movie sets in the New York she's watched with her mom while eating their special secret recipe gelato didn't quite do it justice. But Bobby, Iris's best friend, isn't about to let her hide away. He drags her to a famous autumn street fair in Little Italy, and as they walk around the food stalls, a little family-run gelatera, I think that's how you say that, catches her eye. Could it be the same shop that's in an old photo of her mother's? Curious, Iris returns the next day and meets the handsome Gio, who tells her that the shop is in danger of closing. His uncle, sole keeper of their family's gelato recipe, is recuperating from a stroke and can no longer remember it, so they can't make more. When Iris samples the last remaining batch, she realizes that their gelato and her gelato are one and the same. But how can she tell them she knows their secret recipe when she's not sure why Gio's uncle might have given it to her mother in the first place? Iris offers her services to help recreate the flavor and soon finds herself falling for Gio and his family. But when Gio's uncle finally recovers, all the secret Iris has been keeping threaten to ruin the new life and new love she's been building all winter long. So far this book is pretty good. I actually think it has a little bit more substance than a normal romance book, so if you kind of like romance but not ones that are too on the nose, this would probably be a good one. Usually in these videos I then go over all the books that I'm hoping to read in 2024. Let me tell you, I've been buying a lot of books and haven't been reading a ton, so there's a lot to read, and I actually created a separate video that's my to be read video, and I'm pretty sure it's up to like 35 or 40 books that are sitting on my shelf right now that I need to read. So that's gonna be a separate video. It's probably gonna come up a couple weeks after this one just because I have some other videos that will be in between. Please let me know what your favorite books were that you read this year. Comment below if you read any of these and your thoughts about them. Let's not spoil anything though. That is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoy it. I also hope you like, comment, and subscribe down below, and I will see you in my next one. Bye. It's just so funny to me because she didn't show the wedding at all in the show, like the Kardashian show. She kind of was making it seem like she wanted her wedding to be private and intimate. She didn't want it to be for the world. It wasn't for them. It was for her and her husband and all this stuff. And then she gets mad at Kim for making her wedding about business. Then you find out that she let cameras be in their face for the whole week and up in her face for the vows for millions of dollars, and she made her wedding about business. Ugh. So like the whole argument goes out the window.